Was there anything that came out consistently as you worked on people's offers that were, say, oh, this is a big gap for people, or a mistake that people consistently made? Any trends that you found you were spawning with a lot of the people you're working with at that level?
I would say one of the most consistent things that we found is that almost everybody's offer evolved as we went through the few days. It worked so well. The event worked so well. We actually had a second one later in the year. And it held true over that event too. I think people came in and these were experienced people. They already knew what their offer was. In a lot of cases, they'd already sold their offer before. They'd already had success. These weren't like brand new people just coming up with a new idea. They weren't sure if it was going to work. This was something that probably for a lot of them was working.
People that were doing like $1 million launches and multi-million-dollar launches over and over again.
Yeah. And it was funny because no one said anything, but I had a bit of a sense that on that first date, there might've been a bit of thought of, okay, why are we digging into the thing that I'm selling, that I have been selling, that's been working really well? Aren't we going to figure out the launch? But it was amazing as we dug into it, how many ways we could find to refine their offers. And it was almost always refining by the addition of subtraction. We were usually taking things out of their offer to streamline it, make it more simple, make it just really so that 100% of everything connected super well with their avatar, with their person they're trying to sell to. It was amazing how people lit up. Like as you were, kind of tearing apart their baby a little bit here, then people would light up and be like, oh, yeah, this is going to work so much better. And then it was amazing. Then as we went into the second day, where people really had their offer so refined from that first day, how easy and straightforward so much of the launch planning, like the launch planning in quotes, how much that process sped up and got simpler and faster and easier and more fun because we were so crystal clear on where we were going.
I would say one thing that not everyone, but a lot of people, we found high-end offers that they could add. We found places where they could easily create additional sales for if they already had an existing high-ticket offer. So, a lot of people had offers that were like $1,000 or $2,000, and we just were able to, for several of them, identify places where they could add in a $6,000 or $8,000 or a $10,000 level. When you do that, you'll often literally double the results of your promotion. If you have 10 or 20% of your people buy from you at 4, 5, 6 times a higher price for the next offer. And, oh, by the way, there isn't an additional cost of acquisition to get those clients. It can really change the math of a promotion. And so we found those for many people. For some people who already had them, high-end already existing, often they were too complicated or they were taking too long to make that second offer. So I think we just added millions of dollars of sales and profit to the people in the room. And a lot of it came through that adding in that second offer or that higher-end offer.
Yeah, especially because, man, those high-end offers, so often, just maybe not 100%, but the profit margin on those additional offers that comes in is just so high.
I think there's sometimes fear around offering something immediately after having someone buy too. Was that true that you, even at the higher levels, that people were a little bit like, well, really, do we want to do that?
Absolutely. 100%. People were skittish about it. I get it because I certainly felt that way for years as well. The bottom line is that one of the best stick mechanisms for any type of product or service that you're offering is to get people to buy a second time. And if you can get them to buy a second time right away, that can be an amazing way to stick them in your universe and in the end to get better results for them.
Wow. As far as the offer day, I mean, I can imagine people coming in with $1 million launches or that much, and then you're telling them, maybe we want to change this. Was that handled delicately, I guess? Or was that something that, people coming in, they must be open. They're showing up for a reason. But what is it like to tell someone who's already selling $1 million worth of product, well, you might want to tweak a few things about this offer?
Well, of course, everyone, it's a broad spectrum of how receptive they are. There's a few answers. One answer is that there are times where having the three of us is better than having one of us because they could hear it 3 different ways. Another one is we had a real selection process to get in the room. They had to agree that they were coachable and they had to convince us. We literally in the survey had a question that asked them if they were coachable. and then to tell us why they thought they were coachable. Because, sometimes you do get in a room where, people, they become the yeah, but person. Yeah, I tried that. Yeah, but that won't work for me. So it does happen. I think we were delicate and generally in how we framed it. I can think of at least one person that was there who wasn't like the head of the company. They weren't the face. They were like the marketing director. And they were going to have to go back and sell these rather big changes to a very well-proven launch, a launch that had done multi-millions for years and years. And they're going to have to go back and tell the head, the CEO, the owner, the entrepreneur, we want to make these changes. So then we had to coach them on actually how to go do that. But yeah, I'd say every situation was unique and different, but I think we did our best to be as graceful as possible.
I feel like honestly for most folks, I mean, again, it comes down to who the people are in the room, right? But these are people, they're coming in and they know that they've got something good. They know that they're doing well and they're paying a pretty decent amount of money. They're traveling for days, multiple days. I got travel costs. They're away from everything that they're doing. They're not working on their business during these days. Like these are full out days. Like they're coming in to get better. These are people who are at the place that they're at because they're continually looking to get better. So I would say very often, a lot of times the response to us, and most of the time it wasn't really tearing it apart. Most of the time it wasn't saying like, hey, your thing sucks. Let's redo it or come up with something else. Most of the time it was like, hey, have you ever thought about doing this? Or have you ever thought about how doing that might be having this other effect? And I would say probably at least a majority, if not even higher amount of them, you'd give them that thought, like, have you ever thought about this? And they would just be like, well, okay, tell me more about that. Like immediately, like journal out, like, okay, let's talk about that. Let's break it down. Let's keep going to it. And they hear your full idea. And then, sometimes if they turn to the next person next to them and just be like, what do you think about that? Do you agree? Like, how else would you do this? I would say a lot of times the overall reaction was excitement because they could immediately see how it was just a blind spot. Just like how the three of us, it's such a benefit that there's three of us working on campaigns because everyone has blind spots and everyone has the things they just don't think about that are fairly obvious to someone else who is also skilled. And so we spot those for each other. But when you're able to spot those for someone else, it can be a relief. It can be excitement. It can be really cool. And then what happens in that small group environment is that the culture develops, right? People get trained on the culture. So as soon as one person has that response of like, because, you say that to the person sitting across the table and the person that's sitting next to them listening is like, oh, dang, that's a good idea. And they're writing it down too. And so then that makes the person you're telling the idea to, it makes them like take it a little more seriously too. And then by the time it comes around though, each individual person, they've already seen these gaps get identified. They've already seen the magic that happens. Like people are almost sitting there like, okay, do me, like tear mine apart now.
Are people who are going into this, they're investing, they're excited to go there. They probably are going there with the idea of, I have this challenge or this gap or this problem that I want to get fixed. And that's why I'm coming here. But then when you start to do the things that you're doing, do you think that sometimes those problems they thought they initially had weren't necessarily the problems they needed to fix? Or was that kind of how it was when you get into it with them?
Yeah, absolutely. People come for one thing and often they'll leave with a different thing. And we see that in all the workshops, everything we do, because we all have blind spots and we'll come into a situation thinking we know what we need, but those blind spots stop us. Another thing we didn't mention is we did a lot of research on these folks beforehand. So they had to fill out an extensive application to get into the workshop because it was an application only. And then after they were accepted, if they made it through the selection process and we got them all registered for the event, then there was another very lengthy intake survey. So we knew a lot about them in their business and what they were coming for, and to the extent where we had reviewed a lot of their current material. So we weren't going in blind. We didn't have this thing. Like I said, we started with a rough outline, but we've done a lot of research. And then, like one of the questions you asked, Chris, and this is a hint for anyone running an event, a small mastermind or a small event or anything, is like Dan said, there's a culture that grows up during one of these meetings. And the culture is set by the leaders, but it's assimilated by everyone in the room. And so as someone leading something like this, you always want to start with an easy person. So in doing this research and knowing who was going to be in the room, and some of them we knew beforehand, they were They're some of our star clients. And so when you're sitting in front of that room and you're about to have your first interaction, maybe you're about to give your first feedback, you want to go to someone that you know is going to be receptive, that you're going to have a bit of a home run on that first person you're going to work with. And because we've done all the research beforehand and we spent, 20 minutes getting to know people in the little reception area, then you start to get a feel for who's that easy person you want to go to. And anytime you're running a small group event, a mastermind, a small workshop, you always want to give yourself a layup. Have that first one be easy. That's one of my secrets. I'm really good at this. I'm really good at creating these great small group experiences. And that's one of my secrets, is always open up with someone who's going to just be an easy layup, that you're going to be able to get results for them, that they're going to be receptive. And then that'll set the culture for the rest of the meeting.
And that'll spiral out into the authority and other people wanting to get excited about what's about to happen for them too, right? Because if you're going to hit a home run and you see someone hit a home run, you're like, oh man, I can't wait till my home run. That's really cool. That's really cool. Hey, Launch family, one more thing before you go. There's a few spots left in Jeff's Launch Intensive workshop. This is a live in-person training with Jeff, Dan, and Justin in the room. Only 40 people are going to be there. Small, intimate, and super, super powerful. If you'd like to check that out, all you have to do is go to getyouLaunched.com today. Thanks a lot for listening, and we'll catch you on the next episode.